Prime Minister Sanchez, welcome to the program. Let me ask you, you were one of the early recognizers of the Palestinians as a state, Palestinian statehood. How has it been going? You know, there's been a lot of backlash from the United States, from Israel.
Well, but there's a large majority of countries within the General Assembly of the UN supporting the two-state solution.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think that not only there's a must to stop this war, there's a must for the access of humanitarian aid into Gaza, but there's also a must from politicians to give a political horizon to this crisis. And that means, in my view, that we need to recognize internationally the state of Palestine.
Can I just ask you, in terms of pragmatic steps, as a world leader, how do you see this going? President Macron said it's part of a phased, hopefully, path to a two-state solution. What are the first steps?
So the first step, in my view, should be to have a peace international conference where we settle the conditions for this Palestinian statehood. Also the recognition by some Arab countries of the state of Israel, and see whether we can find a way for a coexistence, a peaceful and security coexistence between Palestine and Israel, and of course the Middle East. In my view, the biggest mistake that the Israeli government is committing is how to fight against terrorism. Mm-hmm. Of course, there's a security dimension of fighting against terrorism, but there are the two. First one, when you fight against terrorism, you have to do it within the legal framework. And this is not happening when it comes to Israel and what we are witnessing in Gaza and also in the West Bank. And last but not least, a political solution, politics, diplomacy. And that is why I think it's so important what happened last Monday when large majority of countries and also two permanent members of the Security Council, France and the UK, recognized.
Because now it's four permanent members.
Yep.
Only the US doesn't. You talked about terrorism, so I assume you've seen an op-ed and a column in the New York Times by Benny Gantz, former top politician in Israel. He said he spoke to you early in the war, and he said you downplayed the danger Israel faced, saying Spain also faced terrorism. He says there's no symmetry between the threats both of your countries face. I covered the 2004 terrorist attack on Spain and others in Europe. So I want to know what your view on that criticism is.
But not only the jihadist terrorism, we suffered the Basque terrorism, ETA, in Spain for 40 years. So we know quite well what does mean to fight against terrorism. I think the big mistake is to call it war against terrorism, because it's more complex than a war. Of course, as I said before, there's a security dimension of fighting against terrorism, but there's the political one. The thing here is, how do we marginalize Hamas support within the Palestine society? And this is not happening today because there's only bombing from the Israeli government and without any kind of political dialogue with the moderates within the Palestine society, which, by the way, exists. And they, just remember what President Abbas said before the General Assembly. He was directly speaking to the Israeli people, saying, we want peace, we want a peaceful coexistence, and we will guarantee also the security of Israel.
And just last question on this. What do you make of the criticism that this could be a reward for Hamas, that they could see that...
Not at all.
No.
I don't see it. I mean, who say that is it's people that they don't know what... The implication is that you are recognizing a leverage to Hamas that it is not the case. So here what we are doing is strengthening also the moderates within Palestine society that are willing to open the doors for politics, diplomacy, and to find a solution. The point here is that, let me say it in this way. Is it Israel today more secure than before the terrorist attacks? Is it Israel more isolated than before the terrorist attacks? I think it does. It is more isolated, it is more insecure, and perhaps this is the plan for Prime Minister Netanyahu, to create an insecurity threat within the Israeli society that could explain what he's doing regarding not only Gaza but also the occupation of the West Bank, and this is something that we cannot accept at international level. And as you know, a European leader, a European Prime Minister, I can tell you I'm quite concerned about the implication when it comes to the global South, because there are more and more countries saying, look, Europeans, you ask us, and we agreed upon, for support in Ukraine, but you're committing a double standards when it comes to what is happening in the Middle East and Palestine.
I want to go back to your position on Israel and Gaza and what the solution is. Israeli media is reporting that on Prime Minister Netanyahu's journey here to New York today, his flight has avoided European airspace, including Spain's. Did you know this? What's your reaction?
I didn't know that. But I mean, let's say, because I met Prime Minister Netanyahu 2 months after 2 months later of these horrible and terrible terrorist attacks perpetrated by Hamas. I visited some kibbutz. I was with the people, and I can tell you, the Spanish society, the Spanish government, and of course myself, we are committed with Israel. We want the best future for Israel. But what Prime Minister Netanyahu is doing is the opposite. Is creating more unstable Middle East political situation. It is creating, the seeds for potential terrorism in the future in the Middle East and also in that part of the Middle East. And this is something that is not acceptable for the region, for his society, and also for us. We belong to a Mediterranean country, Spain, with many others. And the situation that we're facing for the next decades is a Middle East more unstable. And this is something that, of course, geopolitically affects Spain and the southern flank of Europe. So that is why I'm asking, Europeans to be more engaged and committed with the situation, as well as we do when it comes to Ukraine.
There's a difficult situation building with the flotilla that's coming towards Gaza. They're trying with humanitarian supplies. Your country, and I believe Italy, is sending military assets to try to protect it against any attack from Israel.
And let's hope not, also to rescue them just in case the Israeli forces attack the flotilla, which, by the way, there are representatives of 45 countries, not only members of NGOs, but also politicians, MPs of different national parliaments. So let's hope that they can provide this humanitarian aid, and of course something. Let's hope that doesn't happen anything to these people, and of course we will provide that safeguard just in case they suffered any attack.
Could it become a
confrontation
between you and Israeli forces?
What we will do is just to rescue our, the members of the flotilla, and just to provide that safety.
Prime Minister Sanchez, thank you so much for joining us.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you very much.